Hello, everyone, and welcome to another segment of our Portuguese history segment here on the Portuguese American Hour, here on KGST, of course, on the radio, 1600 AM, anywhere online, www.multicultural1600am.com, on any phone radio app, the KGST Fresno, so there's no excuses not to listen to us. And of course, we're being also broadcast on Facebook Live for those who do social media. We have, as always, our historian, Dr. Monique Kelly-Vallance, who has a PhD in Portuguese history from the University of California in Santa Barbara. Monique, how are you? You and your family doing well, we hope?
Yes, we're doing well, thanks.
Good. And how are things at PFSA? Still PFSAing, right? I saw
Yeah.
I saw PFSA people online at the Fresno County Fair. That is wonderful that you guys
Yeah.
are. That is kudos to you for doing that. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really reaching out. I mean, they went to the Oakdale Rodeo and the Chocolate Festival, so they're kind of reaching out and not trying to stick to just Portuguese events.
Well, sure, because Portuguese people go to all kinds of events. It's who we are.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot more of them. If there's 2,000 at the Portuguese Festa in Tulare, there probably is a few more than that at the Tulare County Fair, where they normally have 65,000 people in a couple of days. So,
Exactly. Right.
indeed, kudos to PFSA for doing that. That's part of that mainstreaming that we actually talked about when we had
Yeah.
the conversation with you and Anthony Piu. So, what are we going to learn about history today? Not the PFSA history, but the history of Portugal.
No. Okay, so today I thought I wanted to talk about a little kind of interesting incident that happened in the 17th century. So a lot of times when interesting things happened to Portugal, England was normally involved in some manner. So in the 17th century, we were, for those who don't know, Portugal was under the sovereignty of Spain from 1580 to 1640. That was the one and only time Spain ruled us. So nobody go around saying that Spain was in charge of us, because they weren't. I get really mad when people ask me, so when did Portugal get its independence from Spain? We were a country before Spain was. But anyway, so we got our independence in 1640, and King João IV became king. And his problem was that he really needed friends. He didn't have any money. And, here he is fighting against Spain, and Spain is refusing to recognize Portugal as an independent country. Now, the most natural ally for us would be England, because number one, England had been our ally since the 12th century. And number two, the English traditionally hate the Spanish. So it works out win-win for them. And Charles I was King of England. Unfortunately for both João and Charles, Charles actually started having problems himself, starting in 1640. It was the beginning of the English Civil War. And so he wasn't much help to João for the first 9 years, and then he lost his head in 1649. So now João doesn't have a friend, because who takes over is Oliver Cromwell and the Rump Parliament. So it's not like the majority of Parliament that was against Charles. It was actually just a small minority, but they were Protestant. So we have a republic in England, and we have a guy in charge who's Protestant. And so for João, he's kind of in a weird position, because he doesn't want to make England mad, because they still have a really, powerful navy. But he also can't be friendly with Oliver either, because A, he's Protestant and João was Catholic. And number two, he just chopped off a king's head. And we don't want to say that that's okay. We don't want to give anybody any ideas in Portugal. So we got to stay away from that one. So João's idea is, let's just stay neutral, which was probably a good idea. And then enter Prince Rupert. Now, Prince Rupert was the Count Palatine of the Rhine. If you're wondering, well, that doesn't sound very English, Rupert was actually the nephew of Charles I. His sister Elizabeth had married the Elector of Palatine, Frederick. And so Rupert was Charles's nephew. Now, Charles II is a child, and he's in France with his mother. And so I think Rupert thought, hey, I want to, take one for the team. We're going to, get back the family honor, and I'm going to fight against Cromwell myself. So he actually had based himself in Ireland and was trying to fight Cromwell that way. a lot of people don't know that Ireland actually was very much against Cromwell, and the Irish were very big into helping Rupert. But Cromwell was more powerful, and he chased Rupert out of Ireland. So where does Rupert want to go? Portugal, because it's the next closest country, and he figures they'll be friendly. Now, when Rupert asks João if he can come to Lisbon, João's like, sure, why not? I mean, yay, you guys are friends, and we'll have a good time. They're shocked when Rupert shows up in Lisbon with 3 English ships in tow. So he had captured these ships and brought them into Lisbon. And to make matters worse, he had actually used one of these ships to pick up Portuguese citizens or subjects in the Azores and take them to Brazil. So now João's in a little bit of a pickle because he looks like he's complicit when he had no idea any of this was going on. Now he's in kind of a sticky situation. But he still is friendly with Rupert. Rupert's got his brother Maurice. They show up in Lisbon. João shows them a good time. He has a feast for them and everything. But Rupert is not a very good guest. So against João's personal wishes, even though João doesn't really say anything to Rupert, Rupert starts using Lisbon as a base to attack English ships. So he figures Portugal is far enough away that the naval ships won't come after him, but it's close enough that they can attack English merchant ships, which is bad for Portugal because now foreign ships don't want to come to Lisbon to trade with the Portuguese because they're afraid of Rupert. So now, João's kind of, tá pagar as favas, as we say in Portuguese, we're paying the price for Rupert's little exploits. And the Portuguese merchants are getting really upset, and they're actually writing to Rupert saying, hey, basically saying everything, but can you get out? And Rupert refuses to leave. So he's, convinced he's going to stay there. Now Parliament's mad at Portugal, and they start writing the English Parliament starts writing letters to João saying, hey, what is going on over here? You need to kick this guy out. João's paralyzed. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, either way, he's in a bad situation either way. If he kicks Rupert out, then he looks like he's supporting Cromwell. If he helps Rupert, now he's going to be at war with England, and they're not really in a position to be at war with England. And then to make matters worse, his son, Dom Teodosio, and his wife, Dona Luisa, take the side of Rupert, and they actually, with the members of the clergy, are actually fighting for João to back up Rupert and start helping him in his thing. In fact, the clergy, they were convinced that if they were to fight with Rupert, they actually thought they could capture English naval ships and kind of beef up Portugal's navy. I think that's a long shot, but that's what they thought was going to happen.
Sometimes the clergy should not get involved in politics,
right? Just stay in their lane.
and we always hear, the clergy never gets involved in politics, and this was in the 1500s. I mean, the 1600s. So
yes,
they've been involved in politics for a while, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, this is why separation of church and state.
That's right. Even before that, even when you mentioned the other day the Acordo de Tordesilhas, it was with, of course, the church had influence. But anyway, so it would make sense that the clergy wanted that because they were against the Protestant movement, of course, in England.
Exactly.
And how far it had gone.
Exactly. Right. So, and then, to top it off, because those foreign merchants were scared to trade with the Portuguese, now Portugal actually gets a food shortage because grain was one of the items they imported the most. And this is actually now people are going to start going hungry. So this is all really bad. So Rupert's been in Portugal for 10 months and he's created a lot of havoc, so 1652, by 1650, he's finally is going to leave. It just was a disaster altogether. So now the English are really pretty mad at Portugal. And they forced the Portuguese to sign this treaty in 1652, in which Portugal is going to pay England back for anything that Rupert did to them. Now Portugal's got to pay for all of this. And then also allowing freedom of religion for the English merchants living in Lisbon, which is not, the Inquisition is not happy about this at all. And so now João's just got problems on all sides because, the English are mad at him and he really doesn't have a choice but to sign this treaty because he doesn't want to go to war with England. They can't afford it. And he's already at war with Spain. And then now the Inquisition is mad at him. Everybody's mad. The poor guy probably just felt like running away. We always think like, oh, it's good to be the king, but a lot of times it's not good to be the king because the buck stops with you, and he's just in trouble with everybody. And because the Inquisition is mad at him, he tries delaying the signing of the treaty because he knows he's going to get in trouble. And then the English now are even more mad because they're convinced that this is just a tactic that Juan was using. They don't believe that he's really this indecisive, not indecisive, but this like non-confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, well, you're the king? Why don't you tell the Inquisition what's what? But he can't. And he needs the support of the church. So anyway, long story short, by 1656, Britain is pretty upset. He still hasn't signed the treaty. They actually start sending ships off the coast of Portugal. So finally, João just signs the treaty. He has to pay £50,000, which back then was a lot of money. Today is a good bit of money too, but and he has to agree to the freedom of religion for the English living there. And it's going to just a mess that's going to last for a little while longer until the restoration of the monarchy in England.
So Portugal had a bit of was in a bit of a pickle. The country itself, of course, John, the king himself, but the entire country, and so it kind of cost a little bit of the indecisiveness to try to play both sides of the field. In other words,
yeah, essentially, because I mean, it was six of one, half a dozen the other. Either he
sure.
faces. He's trying to pick definitely the middle way to try to see, like you said, kind of just try to pick the way that's going to be not make any waves either way, and it just wasn't working.
Yeah, maybe trying to see if monarchy would get restored meanwhile and things like that would happen. But it took a while longer, and it wasn't the same monarchy that came back. But when when you said that. Of course, sometimes it's not good to be king, and Juan was probably wanting to get away, but we didn't want him to get away because one had just gotten away too a little bit earlier.
Right.
That's why we lost our independence to Spain for that amount of time.
And the poor guy too, like when they first started this whole idea of the revolt and they wanted him to be at the head, he didn't want to do it. I mean, he was kind of like, guys, I don't want to do this, like I'm happy where I'm at, like I like my head right where it is. And and his wife Louisa supposedly is the one that convinced him to do it. And so I think he kind of got dragged into this whole thing, and then here he is now going, see, I told you I didn't want to do this.
Sure.
I could have been back home in Villa Vistosa, going hunting, writing music, enjoying my life, and now you're here making me miserable.
Yeah, a lot of power, but with it, a lot of other responsibilities and a lot of decisions, because it was a time of turmoil in all of Europe, of course.
Yeah,
indeed.
It really was, yeah.
Well, once again, thank you so much, Monique. We appreciate it. We appreciate your insights and your sharing with us and taking time for this history segment every single week. Again, that is Dr. Monique Kelly-Vallance, PhD in Portuguese history from the University of California at Santa Barbara. Thank you, Monique. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.